Zabu, the new Battle Pass card in Marvel Snap, looks like one of the strongest cards in the game. And these decks that I've built, I believe, are going to be the strongest decks for every collection level possible. Of course, these decks have not been tested, but I've spent a long time building these alongside my chat, and I think they're going to be really nice for you. If you haven't already seen my tier list video where I ranked all the 4-cost cards that synergize with Zabu, I'd highly recommend giving that a watch. It's going to give you a good idea on those 4-cost cards that you've got in your collection level and if you should include them. If you're not sure, Zabu is making your 4-cost cards cost 2 less. You can play it on turn 3, then on turn 4 you can play 2 4-cost cards, and on turn 6 you can play 3 4-cost cards. So you want a bunch of these, and in pool 1, Moon Girl is going to be the key card. She's going to be in all of these decks. She's doubling our hand, which means that we can suddenly have 6 4-cost cards all in hand if we only had 3, because you're going to run out of 4-cost cards without Moon Girl. And this pool 1 deck, there's not really many good options in at 4 cost. A lot of them are going to come in pool 2 and pool 3 especially. So we're using Kazar and a bunch of 1-drops to get that big value on our Zoo cards. Of course, already the strongest deck, really. We've got a Chavez to increase the odds of us drawing our Kazar and Moon Girl early. Pretty bad, wouldn't recommend, but there you go. Moving on to pool 2, things get slightly better. Not massively, though. We've still got the Thing in there, for goodness sake. Storm enters the mix. Storm can be a really nice card in Zabu decks if you don't draw your Zabu on turn 3, which is going to happen in 50% of games if you're not running America Chavez. 54.5% of games, you are going to draw Zabu on turn 3 if you have Chavez. But for those games you miss it, hopefully you find Storm as a nice play on turn 3, and then you can try and win your Storm lane with a card like the Thing, Jessica Jones, White Queen, or Jubilee. We've also got a Sunspot in there to help your Storm lane and just give you a 1-drop to play in case you miss lots of other things. Cable's in there as well because it's going to help you draw maybe some of your opponent's 4-cost cards. Mantis also a consideration that I thought about. Not really too much to say about this. The deck is certainly looking stronger when we get into pool 3. There's some big options that become available to you. Goose being a nice one. Goose is a 2-drop, which you can play, of course, before your Zabu if you draw it. It has an ongoing ability that means nobody can play cards that cost 4, 5, or 6 at its location. This might seem bad because you've got so many 4-drops, but if you have Zabu down on the board, of course, then you are going to be able to play cards into your Goose lane. These 4-drops can go into your Goose lane. You could consider playing America Chavez to increase the odds of you drawing your Goose and Zabu early. I decided not to play it here and instead put in Rock Slide. But of course, you're going to not have access necessarily to all of these 4-cost cards. I would highly recommend watching my tier list video just to see which ones that you've got, which I quite like. But these are probably my favorite ones overall. Storm again in there in case you don't draw your Zabu. I would maybe suggest though not playing Storm on day 1 of the patch because so many people are going to be playing Zabu decks, and therefore so many people are going to have cards like Jessica Jones, which are going to be very good into your Storm lane. So you might just not want to play Storm. If your opponent plays Storm, they play a very slow card on turn 3, and you can maybe play something a little bit better. But if you don't have Zabu, you're probably skipping turn 3. Storm definitely a nice option here. Moving on to the Darkhawk Zabu deck. This is what I believe to be the strongest Zabu deck on day 1. Of course, again, not refined because I haven't been able to play this deck, and in fact I won't be able to play this deck because I don't have Darkhawk. But Darkhawk, if you're not familiar, is a new pool 5 card. It gets +2 points for every card in your opponent's deck at the end of the game. Without any synergy, it's going to play for 7 points because your opponent's going to have 3 cards left in their deck. However, this can be made better by playing cards like Korg, and particularly the Rock Slide, which is putting 2 rocks into your opponent's deck. Absorbing Man, also a pool 4 card, which comes into this one, which can copy the on-reveal ability of the last card you played. So Rock Slide plus Absorbing Man on turn 4 is putting 4 rocks into your opponent's deck on turn number 4, which is pretty insane. Big opportunity for them to just draw some rocks, and also that's more points for your Darkhawk. Wong, also an option on as a 4-drop. This Rock Slide therefore would put 4 rocks into your Wong lane. Currently, Absorbing Man doesn't work with Wong, so if I played my Rock Slide into my Wong lane and then the Absorbing Man into my Wong lane, I would only get 2 rocks off of the Absorbing Man, but that could be changed in the future. Spider-Man also in this one. Spider-Man has some really nice utility because you can play Spider-Man and Absorbing Man on turn number 5 and lock down your opponent's 2 of your opponent's locations. So you might want to consider trying some Daredevil Spider-Man decks. That's definitely something that I'm going to experiment with as well. Shuri also just makes the cut in this one because you're playing Wong. You can play Shuri into your Wong lane and then play a Rock Slide, and it's going to come in at 24 points, which is quite insane. insane. Mystique in there to copy the Zabu. Black Widow is stopping your opponent drawing a card, so it's more points on your Darkhawk. Chavez in there to just increase the odds of us drawing our combo cards. Moon Girl, because Moon Girl is pretty insane in these Zabu decks. Finally, the deck I'm going to be playing on day one with Zabu. A lot of my decks are going to be looking pretty similar. I have gone for the America Chavez because, you know, I'm a passionate believer in America Chavez. She's 1 in 25 games. She's going to help me draw my Zabu on turn 3, but she's also going to help me draw my Goose on turn 2 and my Quinjet on turn 1. So Quinjet's in this deck because this opens the possibility of us, let's say we Moon Girl our Spider-Man and our Absorbing Man. On turn number 5, I'm going to be able to play 2 Spider-Mans and an Absorbing Man, one of those from Moon Girl, because the 4-cost cards, which you Moon Girl, if you have Zabu down, they're going to cost 2, but then Quinjet makes them cost 1. So you can go Spider-Man, Spider-Man, Absorbing Man, completely locking down your opponent's lane. This is the Spider-Man splurge deck, if you like. The other cards I've decided to include here are just for value. Super Scroll has very big potential. It is a card that I own. I spent 6,000 tokens on him, and it's the first deck it actually makes sense to play Super Scroll in. He's going to copy all the ongoing effects of enemy cards. So if your opponent has a Zabu, Super Scroll is going to steal that ongoing effect. So that does sound quite spicy. Also, if your opponent plays a Wong, you could do that as well. Quinjet and Goose we've already talked about. Drax is just like a decent value play, same with Crossbones. White Queen, of course, just drawing a card from our opponent's hand. Gives us either information, or if they have a 4-drop, it's going to give us another 4-drop. And Crystal, I just want to give her a try. I think she's in desperate need of a buff. On reveal, if this is at the middle location, shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 3 cards. So if you're running out of cards, you can play Crystal to draw 3 more cards. And then you're going to draw another card, so you have 4 cards in your hand for the next turn. Because, yeah, a lot of these cards are going to be very cheap, so Crystal does make some sense. But you're probably going to play Crystal and then want to draw into your Moon Girl, which is another reason that Chavez is in this deck, to increase the odds of us redrawing that Moon Girl. So these are the decks that I'm going to be playing on day 1, with the exception of Darkhawk Zabu. There's definitely some other things you can do. As I mentioned, Daredevil with Spider-Man sounds like a pretty interesting idea. But honestly, just going for the sort of value approach, I would probably avoid Storm on day 1 as well. You might notice I'm not playing Shang-Chi in my day 1 deck, and I'm also not playing Rescue. The reason I'm not playing Rescue is because she is in Shang-Chi range, and the reason I'm not playing Shang-Chi is because everyone's going to be playing Shang-Chi and solely will be cutting Rescue from their decks. And if you actually look at the 4-drops, there's not many cards that are going to be in Shang-Chi range, and everyone's going to be playing Zabu, I would imagine. So that would be my advice to you. Avoid the Shang-Chi and avoid playing the Rescue so you don't get Shang-Chi yourself. I'd also avoid playing the Storm on day 1 because of all the mirrors. You could consider playing Enchantress, of course, to help the mirrors. Super Scroll kind of doing a similar thing here, though. But they're my decks. Let me know what you think. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. See you on the next video.